theoretical and very technical to us. But remember, these are like home letters. You can call this is like home letters from our Heavenly Mother. And our Heavenly Mother really are very, very anxious for us to understand what she's trying to relate to us. And she's very anxious for us to follow all these teachings or the principles so that we can all go back to our original home. Okay, just imagine when we are away from our home in this mundane world, and our parents in the past, we don't have this e-communication, and so our parents would always write to us. I remember when I was away at college, I would receive letters from my parents, from time to time, and we can feel the love. Okay, but this is even more significant, even more special, because from our Heavenly Mother's perspective, we are caught up in this bitter sea of the mundane world. We are always in this cycle of reincarnation. We are amidst suffering. So our Heavenly Mother really cried her heart out when she's writing these sermons, and how she is hoping that we can all go back. We know that it's 9.6 billion. Although this is not a very exact number, okay? The 9.6 billion, 96元佛子, it has a symbolic meaning. The 9 in Chinese culture symbolizes the gentleman, and the 6 symbolizes the female, the ladies. So it means both men and women, young and old, boys and girls. We all have to go back because that's where we all came from. And so weeks ago I covered I would say probably half of the 9th sermon. I guess I went into too much detail, but I think it's important to try to relate what I think needs explanation. So this chapter, this 9th sermon, talks about first our Heavenly Mother started with a description of our Buddha nature. It's so bright. It's full of wisdom, and it does not rely on anything to shine upon it. On the contrary, it shines on the outside and it illuminates our path in this lifetime. It also lights up our path to go back to the absolute heaven. And then our Heavenly Mother talks about the religions, the 3 major religions. The Taoism, the Buddhism, and also Confucianism. And she also told us that these really are what she intentionally devised for us, because this is the religions kind of prepare us to accept the truth, the truth, or we say the fundamental truth of the universe, the fundamental truth of this, life and death and everything. And in previous paragraphs, we also cover, our Heavenly Mother talk about the major differences. But really, although different religions approach the truth from different aspects, techniques and also the preachings are a little different, but that you can always find, they are related. All the 3 religions, they related. For example, we talk about how the 5 elements in Taoism relate to or correspond to the 5 precepts in Buddhism, and also to the 5 constant virtues of Confucianism. Do you still remember the 5 elements in the Taoism? What is that? Metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. And the 5 constant virtue is, benevolence, righteousness, propriety, wisdom, and sincerity, I would say trust. Yeah, and the 5 precepts in Buddhism is to do not what? Kill, do not steal,
do not lie,
do not lie,
lust, and
no lust and no alcohol. Yeah, and remember, I drew some kind of a special, a very simple sketch on the blackboard, how and show how this the beliefs or the teachings of these 3 major religions, they kind of relate each other, correspond to each other, and eventually our Lao-Mu said, our Heavenly Mother said that they all have to go back to the one source. Okay, what is the source? This is the Tao. Okay, the Tao. And if it does not go back, it does not relate to the source. It does not get. It's not like a derivative of the Tao. Then this is not the true teaching. Okay. So these are very technical, but if we really internalize them, we really understand them. Usually with our different stage of cultivation, we'll come to different understandings of all these principles. But try to appreciate, try to learn to understand them because they are really very helpful. If we are really bent on becoming a Buddha, we have that determination. These are all very good guidelines to help us. So last time we covered this when the 3 major religions were from the same origin and have been advocating the same absolute truth, Tao. If there should be a second truth, the religion is not correct and its role must be devious. Yeah. So everything has to go back to the source, which is the Tao, or the origin, which is the Tao. So when Fuxi drew one, a symbol of solar, to evolve the 8 trigrams, to demonstrate the universal principle, the foundation of descending Tao was established. Okay, we know that Fuxi, he is the first patriarch in the Tao's lineage. Okay, so he's the one who really enlightened, people of his time and kind of awaken, awaken to our divine wisdom, people to the divine wisdom. Yeah. So when he drew the one line, this one line indicates the yang. Okay, solar, or we can say the can we say the male part or masculine, right? Okay, and then the 3 dotted lines refers to the feminine or the yin. Okay, so Fuxi, he wrote the Book of Change, which really uncovers the universal truth of the cosmos, and which is a very, very important contribution to the cultural civilization, and also to the Tao's propagation down the road. Now in the Green Era, Tathagata, Dipankara, and ancient Buddha was sent to incarnate into this earthy world and quietly guided the people chosen by God to receive Tao and return to heaven. In the Red Era again, I order Shakyamuni Buddha to come to this world and save the chosen ones to go back to the heavenly home. So these 2 are talking about the 2 different periods where Tao was only transmitted from one to another. Okay, so in the Green Era, we all know it's Dipankara Buddha. Okay, and then the Red Era is Shakyamuni Buddha. So all of this, actually, they were kind of predestined by the Tao or by the heavenlies, the heavenly way. Okay, and actually, all this Buddha, and also our Maitreya Buddha, they are kind of related in a certain way. In this, you can say this is also part of the course, part of this karmic relationship. Okay, there's a story that goes like this. Once in Dipakara's time, Shakyamuni Buddha, he was Brahmin hermit. Okay, he's a rich Brahmin hermit. He was also a cultivator at that time. And so once Dipankara had to cross a path that's full of muds, okay, and this Shakyamuni at that time he's called Sameda. He, I guess he's a Brahmin hermit. Okay, he didn't want the Dipankara Buddha to soil his feet. So he had long hair. He threw his hair and lay it down on the path, so Dipankara Buddha could walk on his hair without, soiling his feet. And so Dipankara Buddha later said to Shakyamuni, Sameda, okay, at that time he was called Sameda. He said, you are to become the Buddha. You are to become a Buddha. And he also mentioned that Shariputra and also Magallana will be your chief disciple, and Ananda will be your chief caretaker. So this kind of, talks about, the karmic relationship between Dipankara and Shakyamuni. So they don't just happen randomly, because they are really, the chosen ones to help, govern this world. So in their time, they have helped bring some of the, people back to heaven, to our heavenly home. We often talk about that there are 99.6 billion people on this, earth that came from the absolute heaven. We know that this is not a very exact number, and we also, in a few next paragraph, Lao-Mu also talk about how many people were, brought back to heaven. Like in the green and red eras, 400 million heavenly children were brought back to heaven. Actually, we probably shouldn't translate it with specific number. It just indicates the number of people who were brought back to the absolute heaven. Okay. Well, I think considering that it was one-to-one transmission of the Tao, that this number was pretty significant, right? Yeah, I talked with Transmuter Jin about this. He said even now with the universal propagation of the Tao, we don't have so many people yet. Yeah. So probably some of them, in Chinese we say 暗点, right? Like they were secretly pointed, got the pointing and went back to the absolute heaven. So now it is the white era, the time for Maitreya Buddha to save all sentient beings. I, Lao-Mu, order Children-9 Buddha to be in charge of the Tao post and to propagate Tao all over the world. So now this is the era of Maitreya Buddha. Do you remember what Maitreya Buddha means? It's the Buddha of the future. Okay, so we talk about the three Buddha. It's the Dipankara is like the Buddha of the past, and Shakyamuni usually known as Buddha of the present. But now he probably should be also regarded as the Buddha of the past now, because now it's Maitreya Buddha who's governing the heavenly post. There's also a story between Shakyamuni Buddha and Maitreya Buddha. So in one of the earlier times, Maitreya Buddha, he was also a cultivator, very sincere cultivating, and he knew all people were suffering. So he resolved to really understand and cultivate, so that he would be able to show the truth to the entire world, to help elevate people from this the bitter sea. But then he was in a country where the king or the emperor was not very virtuous, and so people in that country were suffering, and there was like starvation, famine. And even he was, on the point, he was stopped to the point of death. And so other people, including, some of the animals, saw that he was so sincere in cultivating, in helping people. And so they say that we need to save this cultivator. So there was we call 兔子. I don't know. It's a hare or it's a rabbit. Probably a rabbit. Okay. The mother rabbit saw that Maitreya Buddha. It's not Maitreya Buddha. He's called 一切光明智. 一切光明智. It means all bright and wisdom. Okay. He was known as 一切光明智. They saw that he was starving, and so he said, "I'm going to sacrifice myself. I will become his meal." The big rabbit said that, the mother rabbit, and so the child rabbit also said, "Okay, if you want to do that, I want to do that too." So both of them, just kind of throw themselves into a fire, and they were burned. But did you think that 一切光明智, ever bright or ever wise cultivator would eat it? No. So he did not want. He could not bring himself to eat the meat of sentient beings. So our Maitreya Buddha was very well known for his compassionate heart. Okay. So it was later. It turned out that the rabbit was really the incarnation of Shakyamuni Buddha. So we can see how these enlightened beings in their own incarnation or in their period in their time was ready to really sacrifice themselves. We also heard of stories of Shakyamuni's sacrifice, in other situations, like he was going to feed the tiger so that the tiger would not eat another person. Okay, so they have such a compassionate heart. They don't have ego. They don't have self. Now, besides, our Heavenly Mother said, besides, I do not keep any Buddha, Bodhisattva, saint, or sage in the heavenly home. I send all of them to be born in this earthly world to help preach the truth, establish the foundation of the holy mission, and send all of them to reincarnate to support and help complete the holy mission. Okay, if we look around, back in history, we have so many patriarchs who really sacrificed themselves, who went out of their way in order to bring the truth to people. And closer we can look at our predecessors in temple, in the Tao community, how they were willing to help take they help burden the karma debts of all sentient beings, right? Like our 18th matriarch. Yeah, in order to help the Tao's propagation, she enclosed herself, and do the 10,000 bows every day to and beg, pleaded heaven to help all her disciples or followers, and we also know about the stories of predecessor Lu, how much he had to endure when he was pioneering Tao in Taiwan. Okay, and we also heard about some of the more recent days transmitters and also lecturers or even temple masters who also endure a lot in order to bring sentient beings to the path of the Tao. So what's our mission in this lifetime, our holy mission? Yeah, on the inside we have to ferry ourselves, right? When we say ferry ourselves, it not only means that we go to the other shore. It also means that we have to elevate ourselves up above all this, some of the bad habits, some of the faults we have. So we have to get rid of all this, attachments, our bad habits and our faults. Okay, and then perfect our virtue. Okay, so we are in line with our Buddha nature. So our Buddha nature has no coverings. It can manifest, without any hindrance. And then on the outside, we also have to awake other people to our Buddha nature. We also have to help others cultivate so that they also recognize the preciousness of the Tao and also understand how important it is for us to cultivate so we can all go back to the absolute heaven, because this is the final stage, and this is you can say the stage of final determination, judgment. And so if we care about them, our loved ones, families, friends, or even our co-workers or whoever we have affinity with, then we should always try our best to share Tao, share what we know about Tao with them, so that they can also they also have the opportunity to learn to attain enlightenment. So Lao-Mu said, I want them to bring salvation to the poor first. The talks about the Buddhas and saints or Bodhisattva who incarnate into this world to help spread the truth. I don't know why they say bring the salvation to the poor first. I tried to look up and I can't find. Does anyone know? Lecture Kai?
What?
The Heavenly Mother said bring salvation to the poor first, and then the rich, and then people with high social status.
Because poor people are easier to bring in.
Okay, good. That's
Right, Kai?
one of the good reasons, I guess, right?
They're more needy.
Well,
They need help more.
They need them in.
different reasons.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
Also, they're probably more poor than rich.
Yeah.
More person.
Yeah, we-
don't have like wealth, and so they are not looking too much.
Not too much
They-
desire.
Right. So they're
Attachment.
more
Right.
susceptible to
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. We often talk about this at a temple. If a person has a very high social status, or they are very, well off, they are very affluent, they have a very comfortable living, it's very hard for us to ask them to come to, cultivate, because when we cultivate, then we have to get rid of a lot of, the material comfort and luxury. And so it's very hard, and they don't see any reason why they should, improve themselves, because they are very good already. Yeah, Usually people who have some kind of difficulty or have some, specific needs or help, are more easy to convince, right? But eventually, it's everyone. Young and old, poor or rich, the socially advantaged or the disadvantaged, they all have to be told to, maybe receive the blessing, and they all need to go back to the absolute heaven together. That's the plan of our Heavenly Mother. Now, time is running out. All cultivators should work harder to cultivate and propagate Tao. You should be energetic, determined, firm, and steadfast to preach Tao to lost children. Okay, yeah, so every time Buddhas came to Dhamma class to talk to us, they always start with this, urgency, the sense of urgency, and time is really running out. Now, we were still preparing for the Chinese New Year, and now, a quarter of a year, it's already gone. Yeah, so, and also, compare our earthly time with the heavenly time. Our earthly time is just like a snap, right? It's so transient. So we have to work hard. So we have to be energetic. Are we energetic? Are we full of, drive? When we try to, talk to people about the Tao. Yeah, sometimes I'm also very ashamed of myself. Tao is so good, and I do recognize how important and how precious it is. But still, I don't think I'm so, I have not done so enough, sufficiently well in bringing the Tao to people. Still have a lot of what we call reservation, being afraid of rejection and things like that. But I think every day, with each passing day, I try to encourage myself to let go of all this, imaginary opposition, that we kind of set up for ourselves. Yeah, and cultivation is also about cultivating our compassion, and I'm sure we all realize that when we are cultivating the Tao, when we really get to know more and more about the Tao, about our Buddha nature, we are happier, we are more relaxed, we are more we are wiser every day. Well, so in Buddhism's word, we are full of fa xi, right? The heavenly bliss. So we really should try to spread the word. Okay. Now heaven is great, the earth is great, yet Tao is the greatest. Okay. The heaven decree is the order from Lao-Mu, and it is most mystic and supreme. Okay. Yeah, so we talk about how Tao is formless, it's nameless, it's it has no it's not tangible, right? But yet we in the Sutra of Stillness and Purity, it said Tao is without form, but it gives rise to heaven and earth. It has no preference. 大道无情. It's not feeling. Okay, probably should be preference, but it governs or regulates the sun and the earth. Tao is without name, but it nurtures all the living beings on this earth. Okay, so Tao is the source of everything. Okay, so if we really understand the Tao and we follow the principles of the Tao, guarantee, just like our Heavenly Mother said, if my children follow the Admonitory sermon to practice and propagate Tao, I will send Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to protect you and keep you safe and comfortable. Okay, yeah, when we are helping the heaven, when we are helping propagate the Tao, definitely we get help from Buddhas and saints. Okay, just like what Lao Tzu said, 天道无亲，多常与善人. Tao has no preference. Tao is impartial. Okay, it's very fair and just, but it wants to give more to people who are kind, people who perform kindness. This is part of what the Tao is about. This is part of the Tao principle. Yeah, always reward good people, but has to also bring punishment to people who do bad things to other people. There's a book which is a collection of scriptures from Buddhas and Bodhisattva, and it talks about how at a certain time, our Heavenly Mother or the Tao is going to have to cleanse people who are devilish, who do a lot of bad things. And so people would ask, if Buddhas and saints and Bodhisattvas are very lenient, are very benevolent, why cannot not forgive anyone? So the answer from the Buddha is that if we are good to these people who have hurt a lot of people, they kill people, they took advantage of other people, then what would be our answer to all these good people? You see what I'm saying? Okay, yeah, so just like Confucius said, when people do good things to us, then we reciprocate with the same goodness, right? But when people do bad things to us, we don't do something like similar to them. Then this will never end. But we have to react to people, or these evil people, with what? A Buddha heart, with we say the straight mind. 以直报怨. Okay, yeah. And then in the near future, some very critical events will happen, and the truth will become clear. Thousands of factions and tens of thousands of religions will be spread all over the world. Incredible magic will be seen. They will be able to recite spells, command winds and rain, or summon strong winds to bluster sand and stones. When they point at the sky will cleave. When they point at the earth will crack. They will be able to remove mountains and drain seas within seconds, okay? And ascend to the sky by simply riding on a bench. They will know many black arts. The black arts refers to, some of the, witchcrafts. Magic, yeah. Evil magic. Mount the clouds and ride the fog. All the bizarre types of witchcraft are too numerous to enumerate. Okay, this talks about, actually, this is we say the final stage, and there are all kinds of phenomena. Some are not very pleasant, but even all of this black, we say the black arts or the magic, the witchcraft, this is part of the things that our Heavenly Mother prepared for all sentient beings. Why is that? Yeah, because in earlier paragraphs, our Heavenly Mother said she descends the Tao. She also descends all kinds of religions and all kinds of factions. And she also mentioned later that she also kind of descend all this magic. This will be like tests and tribulations, I think last time, in last week's class, lecture I also talked about that, we need to screen out, test our wisdom.
And faith.
Right, yeah. Because if we, you are going to read later on, if we really become attached to all this, we are not helping our Buddha nature. Rather, we are adding more clouds. We are, adding it more layers of obstructions to our Buddha nature. And it just means that we are really surrender to all these sufferings. We kind of give way, and we'll never be able to rise up. We'll never be able to go back to the absolute heaven. So this is the process of the weeding out. I don't think I have more time to talk about. When we cultivate Tao, there are so many tests and tribulations. We say there's the Dao Kao, right? And there's the Zheng Kao, Ni Kao. Ni Kao is like, first we are very rich, but then suddenly overnight we become broke. Things like that. And also there'll be tests from our peers at temple, things like that. And this is part of the tests and tribulations. So this is the process of selection for our Heavenly Mother. Yeah, we want, because when we all go back to the absolute heaven, we become like the seeds of the the seeds of Buddhas or saints, or the seeds of because in the next karma, those whoever are able to go back in this karma will become, the people who will be helping, the sentient being or living beings or whatever, or all the existence in the next karma. So at that time, I, Lao-Mu, want all my children to hold fast to my warning. Okay, so remember all those magic, all those spells, they are all forms, and they are not even proper. A lot of these magics are really for selfish gain, not for other people. So we have to remember Heavenly Mother's warning. If you follow them, you will lose your spiritual light. Okay, which means our Buddha nature will be concealed, will be covered by so many layers of clouds, and so we will be trapped in the misery, in the bitter sea forever. So these sorceries are predestined by heaven to appear in the time of the last calamity. So I have my ingenious plans for showing these magic things. Okay, so we have to be very careful. We don't want to follow people who have some who have deviant thoughts from the Tao. That's why we say we always have to. We have received this blessing, and then we have to follow the golden thread. Okay, the golden thread is not only on the outside. Like we have to know who is the creator, and then who our predecessors are, who our transmitters are, who is our introducer and our guarantor, and also what temple we should go to. Sometimes even when we have to move to another place and we want to find a temple of cultivation, we still need to report to our temple now, and they will try to find a temple in that place that also belong to this line. Okay, and unless there's no temple of our line in that place, and so upon approval of our own transmitter and also approval of that temple, then we can go and cultivate there. In fact, the power of heaven is in my hand. So remember, as I said earlier, in earlier class, you can say our Heavenly Mother is like a personification of the Tao, and so she is the source and the origin of everything. When it's time to stop, Lao-Mu will order them to quit, and all sorceries will disappear. So all this magic will disappear. Okay. And then it says, be warned and see to discover the stratagem of the 10,000 deities. I think this is the scene in the novel 封神榜. 金讲师, how do you translate?
Investiture of the gods.
Okay. It's a Chinese novel. Yeah.
It's an epic. It's an epic.
Okay. Maybe later on, lecture Kai in his class.
No, I haven't even read it. We should ask Transmitter Jin because he's read it when he was here.
Yeah.
It's a lot of kids in China. The older school, they read that story. It's like a big novel. It's a long novel. It's epic. It's very long. And it talks about magic and all that. Well, not magic, but you could say supernatural powers. See, the thing is, go back to previous, that we should be careful why. Especially in this Dharma Indi period, in this last, you can say, last test or whatever period of test, it's mentioned in the Bible too, about false prophets, antichrist, all that, 666, right, all that, okay. The reason why we should be careful about pursuing or following, we say, we find that there's a guru or there's a master who can teach us, how to meditate and how to, have how to float in the air, or how to have our outer body experience, right, called what call that, projection, mind projection, or whatever the heck. We have to be careful. The reason why those things are false is based on a very, very fundamental reason. And God also mentioned it too. Say God will also, when the time comes, God will say, stop that, and everything will die. It's because these are all external things that we are pursuing. You get it? So if things, it's just think of it this way. Very basic. If things that can be gotten, right? Can be received, gotten, can also be lost. Very simple. Get it? The only thing that cannot be gotten or lost is what? Buddha nature. Because you already have it. Understand? You don't need to go outside and get it. Why? What is there? You already have it. The reason why we are so weak, or we feel so feeble-minded, or so incapable, is because we have all these desires, right? Remember last week I talked about the 10 deluded views, or 10 deluders, enablers, 10 deluders. I think the technical term is called 10 deluders. It's in your glossary list, so you guys can look it up. It's called the 10 deluders, right? Okay, it's made up of the five what we call the dull vices and the 5 keen wrong views, right? Okay, so because it's all of that, because we have desires. We want to pursue, we want to get something. I want to acquire this power. I want to acquire, you get it? So that's the wrong view. That's wrong. That's absolutely wrong. Yeah, we said we have to acquire knowledge. But that's just knowledge. Huh? And knowledge could change. Right? What you acquire today could be obsolete tomorrow. Hello? That's what science is. Right? Science is always pursuing technology. Right? You get an iPhone 8 now, or iPhone 9, I don't know what the heck the iPhone. Next year it's going to be iPhone 10. And then year after that it's going to be iPhone 11.
iPhone 10 is already out.
Okay, whatever. iPhone 11s, iPhone 11x, whatever, whatever. Doesn't matter, right? Right? So these, that's change. That's all absolute change. So that's why it's called empty. Okay, that's what Buddha calls it, empty. So it's not, it has no essence. It's always changing. There's no true self, right? Anatta, right? But all of us have a true self, and that is that Buddha nature. And the reason why we don't see that Buddha nature, or we can't harness it, is because our conscious thought is so full of all these desires, passions, all this garbage. You gotta get rid of that garbage. Then what's left is our Buddha nature. Then you'll have the 10 liberations, of which the 6 supernatural powers are part of that. Then you already have it, because you already are self-sufficient. Remember, that's the four nirvana virtues, right? 4 nirvana, 四涅槃德, okay? All right? Which is what? The second one is called bliss. The bliss is because it's also means that the bliss, it means joy, okay? But that joy is not because of an external condition. It's a non-conditioned joy, non-conditioned bliss. Based on what? Because our Buddha nature is 自具足. That means it's self-sufficient. It has everything. It has everything. It has supernatural powers. Yeah, it does. Which I will talk about, well, God will talk about in his 10th sermon, okay, in the next class. So that's why, think of it this way. So if you have to go acquire anything, then that's false. Then that's not the true form. Right? In the flower sermon, Buddha say, I possess the what? True Dharma eye. The marvelous mind of nirvana. It has to be nirvana. Okay? The true form of the formless. Okay? So that's anything that's true is formless. Here, there's no form. So any magic incantations, any magic mudra, whatever, magic signs or whatever, abacadabra, whatever, that's all false. That's all false. And also that's subject to change. Get it? So that's why magic spells don't last forever. They're subject to change.
Yeah, just like the Midas touch, right? The golden touch. It's going to last for just certain period of time, right? When the time is up, then everything turns to stone.
So that's how we have to be mindful of that. All right. So just if that's a fundamental core teaching, okay. If we understand that, then we'll be less quote unquote tempted by seeking all these external things or magic. I like to learn how to do magic. I like to learn how to have longer life, better health, all that stuff, or all that. So we just have to be careful. Okay, be careful what we wish for.
Yeah, so if we want to have everlasting life, then the best thing to do is to cultivate and to attain perfect enlightenment. So there's no life or death. Thank you, Lecturer Kai.
That took so much time.
We have five
Are we?
minutes.
Is it?
5 minutes. So
Okay. Okay. Now let's come to the second line. Holding and waving the apricot yellow flag in the air, they will order all deities to go back to where they belong. So all these deities, or those who perform magic. Okay. Lecturer Kai touched upon this. When we really cultivate so well, and when we don't have any hindrance, we don't have any obstructions, when our Buddha nature can manifest, then we will have the 8 transcendental power, right? Like we can read other people's mind. We can see things that people don't see. Our body can be here, but we can travel to all different places in different times. Yeah. But of course, we don't cultivate in order to have those supernatural power, those transcendental power. But that's just like a natural derivatives of the cultivation. Yeah. So immediately all witchcraft will vanish. Without the aid of the deities, no sorcery will work anymore. Okay, so suddenly people who have those magic, who can perform all these spells, they will find out someday all this magic were gone, were taken from them. Okay, and so when they don't have those abilities, then they will no longer be rivals to the truth. Nothing is more powerful. Nothing is more powerful than the truth. Okay, the truth we can say is what the Tao. All religions and factions will come to worship Maitreya Buddha and commit themselves to the Tao. Okay, so we talk about the three major religions, but they all of these teachings, all the different methods or different principles, they all have to return to that single truth, okay, which is the Tao, and it can also, we all have to return, whatever principles, whatever cultivation, we all later on have to return to our true nature, our Buddha nature, and that's what we call what is mentioned in the Diamond Sutra, 一合相. So eventually, Buddhas and us are one. Our heart, our body, our mind is also one. 一合相. Okay. Is there a term for that? I have to look it up.
The oneness of, well, it's the one. It's really the same as the trikaya. Same meaning as the trikaya.
Yeah. Okay.
三生一三生合一 the trikaya, right? That's the Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, and Nirmanakaya. So Nirmanakaya is the Xiang, you can say, and Sambhogakaya is the Xiang. And then the Dharmakaya is the true body, that's the Fa Xiang, right? Fa Sen, Fa Sen, Fa Sen, that's the Fa Xiang. Actually, the Fa Sen is the one. It's the one. It embodies everything. From the Dharmakaya comes everything. Everything is within the Dharmakaya. So that's our Buddha nature. In other words, our Buddha nature gives rise to everything. You remember last week in the topic of the 10 states and realms, we had the conclusion, I say all is one, one is all. Same idea. Same idea.
Yeah.
Right? 万法不离自信 then 自信能生万法 right? So that's the one is all is one, and one is all. That's in the Platform Sutra. Okay? Understand now? So that's why all is one, one is all. It's the same thing. It does the same. It's oneness. You can say that oneness.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so eventually all will support different, different people, religions, or different people will support Maitreya Buddha to let his spiritual light shine and pervade the three realms. Okay, so the three realms refers to, we talk about that, right? The absolute realm, the absolute heaven, and then the temporal heaven, and also the realm of the form, which is our physical world. Okay. Now it will be time for everyone to worship Tao and virtues. The rich will follow and pay heartfelt respect in front of the poor. Why is that? Remember, Tao will be transmitted to the poor first. So the poor will be the rich introducers. So, and we remember in our ceremony, the Tao receiver will always, make a bow to the introducers. So Tao and virtue will pervade the entire world. Every nation will practice Tao. And, this is not happening yet, but eventually it's going to be a reality. And so I already disclosed all heavenly secrets. Our Heavenly Mother said she would not do that until it's absolutely, the time to do that. And this is the time to do that. So all my wise children should hurry to practice my teaching. You should take precaution before it is too late. Okay, yeah. So now that we have received the Tao, and a lot of us are very sincere, very earnest cultivators. We come to temple every Sunday. We just make sure that we don't sit here and just have our minds wandering everywhere. And we also try to apply what we learned during the Sunday to our life. Otherwise, if we don't practice what we learned, then what we learn really amounts to nothing. Okay, so at this time, our Holy Mother said that she's going to stop and then continue. And so in our next class, Lecture Kai is going to talk about the 10th sermons. I ask for Buddha's forgiveness if I said anything wrong or inappropriate, and I also ask you to help correct me later on. Thank you.